This happened last year. I was 32 and in town for a low-profile assignment. I wanted to capture the decay of urban places. That's when I found the old warehouse on the edge of the industrial district. It looked eerie, overgrown with weeds and surrounded by rusted machines. Graffiti covered the crumbling walls. I thought it had a haunting beauty, and I wanted to photograph it. I'll never forget my first night there. I snapped pictures, feeling like I was discovering something untouched. But then I noticed strange symbols on the floor. At first, I just thought they were more graffiti. I got chills when I heard chanting. It was faint, but it sent my heart racing. I felt unease creeping in, but brushed it off as excitement. When I returned over the next few days, I couldn't shake that unsettling feeling. Shadows moved beyond my vision, and sometimes I thought I saw figures in old-fashioned clothes. My camera clicked as I documented the decay, but the air felt different. It was heavy, like a storm was coming. One day, I found a hidden door. It was slightly ajar, worn and creaky. I hesitated before pushing it open. The darkness inside was thick. I saw old crates and broken machinery. Then I heard it again, voices. I didn't know if I should listen or leave. Curiosity pulled me in, so I pressed myself against the wall, hoping to blend into the shadows. They were talking about necromancy. I froze. A chill ran down my spine. I couldn't catch every word, but I could sense the urgency in their voices. They spoke of raising the dead and performing rituals. My mind raced with fear. I was in over my head. Suddenly, a noise made me jump. I caught a glimpse of movement in the darkness. My heart raced, and my palms felt sweaty. I could either run or stay, and my feet felt stuck. Then I heard someone say, "It's time." I felt an icy grip around my chest. I needed to leave, but I was frozen in place. Then I turned to go, but realized I wasn't alone anymore. I spun around, my heart pounding, but nobody was there. No one at all. The echo of my steps bounced off the walls, growing louder. I wanted to scream, but the sound got caught in my throat. I stepped back, trying to escape the unease. I heard faint whispers, feeling eyes on me from the shadows. My heart thudded in my ears as I felt a presence. I glanced around, panicking. I rushed out of that room, desperate for light. The weight of the darkness pulled at me. I stumbled into the main area, but the warehouse felt different. The shadows had grown. The air was thick with something sinister. I could almost taste the fear. I was terrified, but I had to get out. I dashed for the exit, not daring to look back. But I didn't stop running until I reached my car. I drove away, heart still racing. The images of the warehouse haunted me, but I couldn't shake it. I had witnessed something dark that night. I never went back. But sometimes, late at night, I could still hear the whispers echoing in my mind. I tried to move on from that night. I focused on my job, excluding thoughts of the warehouse from my mind. It felt safer to avoid it, but every so often, I found myself drawn back to it. I had to know what happened. It was like a thread pulling me into the darkness again. A few weeks later, the whispers began to change. Instead of echoing in my mind, I started hearing them in the streets. People murmured about strange happenings in the industrial district. I felt a knot form in my stomach every time I heard those words. My instincts told me to ignore it, but curiosity quickly took over. One evening, I decided to investigate. I parked my car a few blocks from the warehouse, heart pounding. Night fell quickly, wrapping the area in an enveloping darkness. I was under a streetlight, its flickering glow feeling like the only thing separating me from the shadows. I moved cautiously toward the warehouse, each step feeling heavier. I expected to see the old building in the same state of decay, but to my surprise, it looked different. New graffiti covered some of the old symbols, more vivid and chaotic. I paused, unease creeping back. It seemed like the place was alive in a way I couldn't understand. As I approached the door, I felt my pulse quicken. I remembered the fear from before, but was too drawn in to back away. I pushed the door open. It creaked loudly, echoing into the abyss. The air was thick and stale. Something felt off. I stepped inside, scanning the room for any signs of activity. To my left, I saw a light flickering through a makeshift window. Cautiously, I moved toward it. The chanting started again, but this time, it was clearer and louder. The voices mixed with a low hum. It felt like a call, pulling me forward. When I peeked through the gaps in the walls, I couldn't believe my eyes. I saw a circle drawn on the floor, surrounded by figures draped in dark cloaks. They stood in concentration, hands raised, in circles by candles that cast wild shadows. It was the ritual I had stumbled upon before, but now it was more intense, more vivid. Suddenly, one of them turned their head, as if sensing my gaze. I ducked back instinctively, adrenaline coursing through me. My heart slammed in my chest. I didn't know how to react. I should have run, but my feet wouldn't move. All I could think about was the fear of being discovered. The chanting escalated, rising to a fever pitch. I heard a word that jolted me awaken. Panic surged through me as I realized they weren't just practicing dark arts. They were preparing for something real. Then, from somewhere deep inside the warehouse, I heard a low groaning sound. It was unlike anything I'd ever heard. I felt a chill sweep through me. Whatever they were planning, it was about to happen. I needed to escape. My heart raced as I turned to leave, but that groan got louder. I could almost feel the ground shake beneath me. I bolted towards the exit, desperate to flee the horror unfolding behind me. Just as I reached the door, I glanced back one last time. That's when I saw it. A figure rising from the ground, its face twisted in a grimace. I couldn't breathe. I tore through the doorway and into the night, terror propelling me forward. The whispers intensified in my mind, and I knew none of this was over. I ran, sprinting through the vacant streets, the cold night air burning my lungs. I didn't stop to look back, afraid that the figure would follow me, clawing its way out into the world. Each footfall echoed in my ears, matched only by the rushing blood. I finally reached my car, fumbling with the keys, my hands shaking wildly. When the engine roared to life, I felt a moment of relief. But as I drove away, I could still hear the whispers, louder than before, drowning out the sound of the tires against the pavement. They haunted me, curling around me like smoke. I was desperate for answers, but the questions twisted in my mind, creating a chaotic spiral of fear that I had to find someone to talk to. My coworker Sarah was intrigued, always pushing the boundaries of simple curiosity. I met her at the coffee shop the following afternoon, my head still foggy from lack of sleep. No other patrons occupied our corner, so I leaned forward, lowering my voice. I went back to the warehouse. I confessed, locking my eyes on hers. They were performing a ritual. It was terrifying. What do you mean? What kind of ritual? Sarah's brow furrowed, but I could see excitement flicker across her face. They were chanting. I heard one word. I hesitated, the terror flooding back. Awaken. Her expression shifted. You think they're trying to raise something? I nodded, feeling a tightness in my throat. I saw something rise. I don't know what it was, but it felt real. She took a sip of her coffee, pondering. I've heard rumors. There are old books, mostly kept hidden in the library archives. They talk about dark magic. Necromancy, maybe they relate to what you saw. As soon as the words left her lips, I felt a pang of dread. The library. It was often quiet, a place where secrets lingered among the dusty shelves. I imagined stumbling across the very same text that had drawn these people in. Sarah leaned in closer. You should check it out. Find the origins of what you saw. I had no intention of going back to the warehouse, but a thirst for clarity grew within me. I couldn't shake the feeling that I was meant to know more. What if those whispering voices were a warning? I had to uncover the truth, one way or another. That night, I found myself at the library. It felt different, warmer, almost inviting. I wandered through the aisles, searching for anything that might shed light on my nightmare. I eventually found an alcove tucked away in the back. The air was stale, thick with dust. Books lined the shelves, their spines cracked from age. And there, at the end, I spotted a weathered tome with symbols that looked strangely familiar. I pulled it down, feeling a surge of energy. Just as I opened it, the lights flickered. The air chilled, wrapping around me like a warning. I flipped through the ancient pages, heart pounding. The words spoke of summoning and binding spirits, of rituals that converged with the night. And then I found a drawing that made my breath catch. Before I could take it all in, a shadow fell across my path. I looked up to see someone standing there, their face obscured. My heart dropped. You're looking for answers, they said, voice low and gravelly. But some things are better left undisturbed. Panic surged again, threatening to drown me. I had opened a door I shouldn't have. The darkness pressed in as I backed away from the figure. My skin prickled with fear. Who were they? The chill in the air went deeper than just temperature. It felt like a warning, like something ancient and powerful was shifting. Stay away from that book, the voice warned again. They took a step forward, and my instincts kicked in. I turned and ran, scrambling past shelves. I couldn't shake the grip of panic as I sprinted toward the exit. I spotted the door up ahead, a glimmer of hope. As I burst into the fresh night air, I felt a wave of relief. But I knew this wasn't over. I could still hear whispers, those cursed words circling inside my mind. I jumped into my car, locking the doors to create some semblance of safety, but that didn't last long. Images flashed before my eyes. The warehouse, the chanting, the dark figure rising. I hit the steering wheel in frustration. I needed to make sense of this mess. I couldn't just run. After a restless night, I decided to revisit the library. I had to confront that shadowy figure. Was it a guardian of knowledge or something worse? Early the next morning, I slipped back into the library, hoping to find answers. The air was heavy as I navigated the aisles again. I approached the alcove, but the book was gone. My heart sank. Had they taken it? I scanned the shelves, searching for any clue. That's when I spotted a crumpled piece of paper lying on the floor. I picked it up, my hands trembling. That was a map, crudely drawn and marked with a large X at the old warehouse. My mind raced. Was this some kind of invitation or a threat? The fear clawing at my insides told me to leave it alone, but an aching curiosity urged me to follow it. That I pocketed the map and made my way out of the library. I hesitated at my car, battling the urge to drive away and forget all of this. But deep down, I knew there was no turning back. The voices wouldn't let me rest until I uncovered the truth. When I arrived at the warehouse, the sun hung low in the sky, casting long shadows across the ground. The atmosphere felt thick like fog, and I approached with dread. I remembered the silhouette from the library, but I couldn't let fear paralyze me. This was my chance. As I stepped through the cracked door, I suddenly froze. A figure stood inside, cloaked in shadows. I held my breath. Then they turned towards me, eyes shining with an eerie light. "Welcome back," they said, grinning darkly. That's when the whispers grew louder, swirling around me like a tempest. I realized with horror this was just the beginning. I was entangled in something much larger than my own fear. I had to figure out how to escape before it consumed me entirely. I stood frozen, trapped between fear and the weight of that grin. The figure stepped forward, the darkness around them seeming to pulse. My heart raced as the whispers crowded my thoughts, each word sending chills down my spine. "You came looking for answers," they said, their voice smooth like oil. "But what you find may not reflect your intentions." "What do you mean?" I managed to ask, fighting to keep my voice steady. I couldn't just run again. I had to know what was happening. "You were drawn to the book, the promise of power and knowledge," they responded, tilting their head. "But it leads to things not meant for human eyes." "Where is it?" I demanded, ignoring the sinking feeling in my gut. "What have you done with it?" The figure laughed softly, a sound that sent shivers along my spine. "You seek something you can't handle. But perhaps I can show you." They beckoned me deeper into the warehouse. My instincts yelled at me to turn back, but a force stronger than fear pulled me in. Inside, the atmosphere was thick. Old crates lined the walls, and flickering candles cast shadows that danced like phantoms. In the center of the room, a worn altar stood, remnants of old rituals etched into its surface. On it lay a thin book, bound in leather, pages yellowed and tattered. "Take a closer look," the figure urged, eyes alight with something sinister. I stepped closer, curiosity battling my dread. The whispers intensified, and I strained to make sense of them. "Don't do it. It's a trap." "What are they saying?" I whispered, but the figure only smiled wider. "They're here to guide you," they replied, stepping back to watch me. "Or perhaps to warn you." My fingers brushed against the book's cover. I hesitated, torn between an overwhelming longing and instinctive fear. The moment my skin made contact, an electric shock coursed through me. My vision blurred, and images flashed in my mind. I saw dark figures chanting, shadows rising from the ground, a necromancer waving their hands with a commanding aura. My breath quickened. This wasn't just knowledge, it was a gateway to something far darker. "Stop!" I shouted, pulling my hand away. "I want nothing to do with this." The figure laughed again. "Then you must leave. But know that the knowledge you seek will always haunt you." They stepped away, fading into shadow, leaving me alone with the book. I backed away, my heart racing. Should I flee or stay? The whispers no longer murmured warnings, but sang seductive lullabies, promising power if I just read a little more. That's when I spotted something beneath the altar. A glint of metal caught my eye. I knelt down, curiosity outweighing my fear, and pulled out a small, ornate dagger. It was inscribed with symbols, glowing faintly under the candlelight. Just then, footsteps echoed from somewhere deep within the warehouse. My heart dropped. I wasn't alone. As shadows flickered and shifted, I realized I had to decide: stay and confront whatever was coming, or escape with the dagger and book before everything spiraled beyond control. I clutched the dagger in one hand, the cold metal grounding me as I scanned the shadows. The footsteps grew louder, echoing off the cement walls, and my pulse quickened. Whoever was approaching was not friendly. My instincts screamed at me to flee, but the book and dagger felt heavy in my hands, anchors tethering me to secrets I wasn't ready to let go of. Shadows danced, stretching like dark fingers reaching out to pull me deeper into the unknown. I quickly made a decision. I couldn't stay that I turned, slipping the dagger into my belt and snatching up the book. Its binding felt warm against my palm, almost alive. The whispers surged again, louder now, pushing against my thoughts, urging me to open it. But escape was my only thought. I needed to find a way out before I was caught. I hurried toward the back of the warehouse, adrenaline coursing through me. As I moved, the footsteps stopped suddenly. Silence filled the space. A thrum of tension hung in the air. I pressed my back against the wall, holding my breath, ears straining to catch any sound. But all I could hear was the rapid beat of my own heart. Then, the shadows shifted again this time, revealing a figure standing at the entrance. The dim light flickered, illuminating a face I barely recognized. It was a classmate from school, one who had been drawn into a world I had only glimpsed from a distance. "Adam," I whispered, uncertain if this was real or a twisted figment of my overactive imagination. "What are you doing here?" He stepped forward, eyes wild, breathing heavily. "I came to find you. I didn't think you'd actually follow the leads." "What leads?" I shook my head, not wanting to hear more. The last thing I needed was to get tangled in someone else's reckless pursuit of power. "The book," he said urgently. "It's a key away to control the spirits trapped in this place. But there are others who want it too. Dangerous ones." The warning hung in the air like a dark cloud, heavy and ominous. Adam had been a good friend once, but now his desperation twisted my gut. The flickering shadows and whispering darkness felt more threatening than ever. Before I could respond, the air shifted again, colder this time. A deep growl punctuated the silence, echoing from the entrance as the warehouse breathed out an unsettling sound. My instincts screamed at me. Danger was coming. "Run!" I shouted, grabbing Adam's arm. We sprinted toward an exit at the side of the warehouse. As we neared the door, something slammed into it from the other side, rattling the frame and stopping us dead in our tracks. "What was that?" Adam gasped, panic etched across his face. I didn't have time to respond. I could feel the ground beneath us tremble, as if whatever was outside could sense us. I glanced at the book in my hands. The whispers were deafening now, an urgency driving their message home. I had to choose. That's when a dark figure emerged from the shadows, eyes glowing with menace. It wasn't just any entity. It was the thing the whispers had warned me about, and it was coming for me. I stumbled back, adrenaline crashing through me like a rogue wave. The dark figure moved closer, its features indistinct in the dim light, but I could feel the malevolence radiating from it. This was no figment of my imagination. This was real, and it was here to claim what it wanted. "Adam!" I yelled, my voice barely cutting through the thick air. He stood frozen beside me, eyes wide and unblinking, caught between shock and fear. I couldn't let him stay there. We needed a plan, and fast. "Move. Now." I pulled him by the arm, and we darted to the side, hoping to evade whatever creature lurked at the entrance. The growl deepened, a menacing vibration that seemed to resonate in my bones. I couldn't think of what it wanted, but I felt certain it intended harm. As we skirted around crates stacked high, I glanced back at the figure. It was closer now, eyes gleaming with hunger. I had never seen such darkness, such raw power concentrated into a single entity. It was wrong. It was alive in a way that made my skin crawl. "Where do we go?" Adam panted, glancing around. The warehouse felt like a maze, its corners twisted, and its paths unknown. I shrugged, panic creeping closer with every heartbeat. Anywhere but here, I replied, instinctively heading toward a door labeled loading dock. The whispers in my mind grew frantic, urging me to listen to them, to open the book. Follow me, I shouted, hoping to rally Adam's courage as we pushed through the door. To my dismay, the door creaked open slowly, revealing a narrow, dimly lit hallway. The whispers surged again, and I suddenly felt a pulse of connection to the book. There was something it wanted me to do. Do you hear that? I asked, my mind racing. It wants me to use it. Adam shook his head, panic giving way to disbelief. You can't be serious. You don't know what it can do. A loud crash echoed from the main room. Something had broken through. There wasn't time for debate. I clutched the book tightly to my chest. It felt like a living thing, vibrating with energy. I had to trust my instincts, even if it meant stepping into the unknown. That we dashed down the hallway, the air growing thicker with each step, and ducked behind a row of dusty barrels lined against the wall. The growl faded, replaced by the sound of heavy footsteps. They thudded slowly, deliberately. My heart raced. Whatever was coming was close. Listen, I whispered as I crouched down. I'm going to try to open the book. Maybe it can help us. You have to keep watch. Adam's face fell. What if it's too late? We might not be able to control what it does. I didn't answer. I opened the book, feeling the heat rush through my fingers. The pages flipped wildly, revealing strange symbols and cryptic phrases. The whispers escalated into a cacophony, clearer now, a language I felt I could understand. Please, I murmured, just help us get out of here. Suddenly, light began to emanate from the book. It pulsed with energy, illuminating the dark corners of the warehouse. But just as quickly as it surged, the light flickered. I looked up, panic seizing my chest. The dark figure stood at the entrance, its eyes locked onto us. Whatever hesitation I had about the book vanished. I had to act. I couldn't let fear paralyze me any longer. And then everything went dark. The darkness swallowed me whole. I couldn't see anything, only a void that pressed in on all sides. I felt disoriented, weightless. But then, amidst the black, I sensed the book still clutched tightly in my hands. That a low rumble vibrated through the floor, pulling me back to reality. I blinked, just as light flickered back into existence. It wasn't the warm glow I had seen before. This light was cold and stark. I was still in the warehouse, but everything felt different, shifted somehow. Adam, I called, my voice shaky. Where was he? The oppressive weight of silence forced me to listen hard. Just when I thought I was alone, I heard his breathing, fast and shallow. I'm here, he whispered urgently. Relief washed over me as I turned to find him crouched beside me, his face illuminated by the pale light of the book. But the light was fading again, pulsing like a dying heartbeat. They're coming, he said, his eyes darting toward a shadow pooling in the corner of the hallway. A chill surged through me. The dark figure hadn't followed us in, but something else was lurking. What do we do? Adam's voice wavered. I shook my head, panic tightening my chest like a vice. I had no answers, only instinct. That I shifted the book in my hands, and the whispers surged again, louder, more insistent. It had something to say. I slowly flipped through the pages, careful not to lose focus. Each symbol seemed to shimmer under the fading light, and something about them stirred recognition within me. Wait, I think I can call on something. I hesitated, uncertainty gnawing at me. I wasn't sure if it would like what I might invoke. But the alternative was worse. Then I saw it, the symbol for protection, garbled yet familiar. I focused on it, my heart pounding. I had to channel the energy, trust the book. Stand back, I said, trying to sound authoritative. I didn't want to scare Adam, but he shifted closer instead. No, we need to get out of here now. But I didn't reply again. I started to chant, the words pouring out of me. The language seeped into my mind, and before long, it felt like I was not an outsider, but part of the entire process. The air thickened, tinged with a metallic taste as a barrier formed around us. Light erupted in bursts, pushing back the darkness as it crackled in the air. The whispers of the book fused with my voice, growing louder, harmonizing with the chaos. And then I saw the figure emerge from the shadows, its form coalescing into something tangible. A pair of gleaming eyes locked onto mine, the weight of its intent bearing down. No, I shouted, my voice breaking as the energy surrounding us flared like a flare in the night. but I felt it, the book pulsing with power, and I forced myself to hold my ground. The figure lurched forward in a cacophony of movement, and I knew I had one last chance. That's when I noticed something else. There was a familiar shape around the entity, white and ghostly. A face I recognized, caught between worlds, reaching toward me. I froze. That's when everything spiraled out of control. The air crackled with tension as I stared at the ghostly face. Memories flooded over me, memories of laughter, of distant summer nights. It was Claire, but her presence felt wrong, twisted. I couldn't process what I was seeing. "Claire!" I shouted, desperation washing over me. I reached toward her, but the pull of darkness tugged at my mind, wrapping around my thoughts like vines. "Don't!" Adam's voice cut through my panic. He was right. I couldn't risk the connection. I had no idea how this dark figure could manipulate her image. The entity lunged again. The barrier I had summoned flickered, vibrated with uncertainty. I felt sweat bead at the back of my neck. "Stay back!" I cried, but it was almost too late. The whispers from the book grew frantic, filling the space. I needed to hold on, needed to trust the magic. But Claire's image was fading, her eyes a mix of fear and longing. "Help me," she mouthed soundlessly. "I'm trying," I shouted, feeling helpless. Then the figure lunged closer, and instinct took over. I focused back on the symbol for protection, trying to amplify the barrier that was quickly degrading. "Together," I shouted, and Adam nodded, clenching his fists. We had to combine our wills. We needed to channel all we had left. The air shimmered with energy as we both concentrated. I felt Adam's warmth beside me, his belief fortifying my own. The cold light intensified, sending ripples through the darkness. Suddenly, the entity screeched, a sound that pierced through the ether. It recoiled, momentarily stunned. I took a breath and chanted louder, feeling the power surge within me. But then, just as quickly as it had flared, the light dimmed. The barrier was faltering again, flickering like an old movie reel. I fought to maintain focus, but there was something else. An overwhelming scent of decay began seeping into the air. "That smell?" Adam gasped, and I felt the world spin. "It's zombies," I finished, my heart racing. I remembered the tales, those harrowing stories of necromancy gone wrong. This place wasn't just haunted. It was a point of convergence. Before I could say another word, shadows flickered in the corners of the warehouse, and more figures began to emerge. They were grotesque, moving slowly but with a menacing purpose. "Run! We have to go now," Adam yelled, panic rising in his voice. "No, we have to finish this, or we'll never escape," I countered, but the wave of despair washed over me. Each zombie seemed tethered to the figure looming in front of us. Then, a burst of rage filled me. I couldn't just stand there while Claire's image flickered out of existence. She had been lost too long already. I had to summon everything the book had, put my life on the line. With renewed fervor, I gripped the book tightly, feeling its essence pulse against my palms. I took a deep breath. That's when I saw it again, the shadow figure, flashing in and out like a bad signal. Its intent was clearer that I knew what I had to do. But in that moment, a deafening roar echoed through the warehouse. "Not now," I yelled, fear gripping my throat. Then I turned my gaze back to the ghastly horde closing in on us. I had to act. The book trembled. The air thickened. Everything surged into chaos. I fought to maintain focus, my heart racing as the grotesque figures edged closer. Shadows clawed at the light, but something deep within me ignited a flicker of resilience amidst the panic. "We have to combine our strength," I shouted at Adam, who stood resolute beside me, wide-eyed but steady. He nodded, his expression caught between fear and fierce determination. Together, we fortified our stance, grounding ourselves against the rising tide of dread. Holding the book tighter, I felt the energy thrumming through me like a heartbeat, the whispers echoing louder and more insistent that I began to chant, a rhythm forming. Each phrase tumbled from my lips in a language that felt simultaneously foreign and familiar, a tapestry woven from the echoes of the past. Adam joined in, his voice threading with mine, weaving a harmony that began to push back the encroaching shadows. The darkness receded slightly, but didn't disappear. The figure before us screamed, its form twisting in rage as we channeled all our fear, all our hope into confronting it. "Stay back," I cried again, the once confident command wavering. In response, the figure morphed, shifting in and out of visibility. Claire's face flickered at the edges of my vision, its radiance dimming as the shadows pressed in a cruel reminder of what was at stake. I couldn't lose her again, I wooed and teeped with renewed urgency. I focused back on the connection to the book and the protective sigil I had seen earlier. The energy surged within me, coiling like a spring ready to snap. The layers of reality seemed to peel back, revealing glimpses of a world caught between the living and the dead. Now, I bellowed, and together with Adam, we channeled that frayed energy toward the dark figure, shouting the protective incantation with everything we had. Light erupted from the book, flooding the warehouse in a blinding brilliance that washed over the advancing zombies, halting them in their tracks. The cold air crackled with tension as the luminescence pushed against the oppressive darkness. Then, a scream erupted from the figure as if the very essence of it recoiled against the light. This was our chance. We can finish this, I urged, pouring every ounce of my will into the chant. The walls vibrated as the shadows twisted violently, threatening to engulf us once more. But in that moment of vulnerability, doubt gnawed at the edges of my mind. What if we couldn't contain the ancient power? What if we made things worse? Yet still, Steve's face haunted my thoughts, a reminder of the cost of failure. It strengthened my resolve. Suddenly, the ground shook beneath us. Everything blurred. The air thickened, and I felt the book vibrating with immense, almost unbearable energy. Adam's voice wavered momentarily, and our chant faltered. Stay steady, I urged him. The dark figure surged forward again, shrouded in shadow but now noticeably weakened. The connection among us crystallized, becoming a beacon of determination that formed a shimmering barrier. With a final push, I invoked the essence of protection one last time. I saw images flash before me, echoes of lost souls, lingering on the cusp of freedom. I understood. We weren't merely trying to ward off the dark. We were striving to seal the rift, to end what had been disturbed. The light expanded, crackling with fierce energy. The zombies faltered, their hollow eyes losing focus. They began to retreat into the shadows, drawn back by the pull of the book, a gravitational force that grew stronger. With a final roar, the dark figure twisted, its form flickering as if caught between worlds. Adam held my gaze, desperation and resolve reflected in his eyes. There was something within us, an unyielding bond forged in fear that fed the light. Together, I shouted one last time, merging our voices, our essence into that flickering glow until it became a blinding flash that consumed the warehouse. I closed my eyes, surrendering to the force pulling us forward. When I opened them, I gasped. Light flooded the space, warm and radiant. Where shadows once roamed, there was only the soft glow of candlelight illuminating the chaos left in the aftermath. I turned, breathing heavily, feeling the lingering energy crackle around us. The book lay still in my hands, and the whispers faded into a haunting silence. Adam's face reflected relief mingled with confusion. Did it work? He stammered, glancing around, searching for the dark figure. I looked back toward the altar. It stood intact, the weight of history pressing down upon it. But the atmosphere felt different, not suffocating, but filled with the resonant aftershocks of what had transpired. It felt as if the air had cleared, yet the imprint of our actions lingered. Unsure, I picked up the book again, glancing at the familiar symbols lining its pages. We might have won this battle, but something tells me this isn't over, I admitted slowly, an unsettling feeling curling in my stomach as I realized the threat may still exist, hidden somewhere in the dim recesses of the world. Let us get out of here, Adam proposed, urgency creeping back into his voice. I nodded, and as we stepped out into the night, the shadows behind us felt oddly alive, pulsing gently as if whispering secrets we couldn't fully comprehend. There was a part of me that wondered if I would ever truly escape the echoes of that place, or if I would always be drawn back into the folds of its history. I glanced at Adam beside me and felt a shiver. In that moment, I wasn't sure if he was the only one I'd have to fear. Whatever darkness lingered around us hadn't truly vanished, it just lay dormant for now. And as I drove away, the cold wind ruffling the pages of the book resting beside me, I couldn't shake the thought. Was the darkness really gone, or merely waiting for the right moment to strike again? I guess I would always have to wonder.